Hey, good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, October 12th, 9:45 a.m. This is Forex Brizio. We're 15 minutes into the futures North American session today, so just keeping up with what I've been doing the last couple of days. Just wanted to kind of show you where we're at right now. We did have U.S. CPI out this morning. Came in a little higher than expected. That's the inflation numbers. It was a little bit of a mixed bag. It was either in line or slightly higher. So that's essentially positive for the U.S. dollar, but it looks like these indices in the stock market are kind of undecided what they think about it. Generally, the U.S. dollar and these indices move together, so a direct correlation, but sometimes they have an inverse correlation. And that could be the case today. So here's the NASDAQ. This is the 20-minute chart of the NASDAQ, and you can see this was that area yesterday, that my last video yesterday that I was talking about price getting up into and moving sideways during the overnight session after that little pop at the end of the day yesterday, if you watched the video I made at the end of the session yesterday. And that's indeed what happened. Price got up here and just moved inside this range all night and into the session. Then this candle right here was the CPI number that came out at 8:30, an hour before this market opened. And you can see now we're just kind of stuck sideways here, sitting at this previous support resistance, which is now acting as support on the NASDAQ. But it's interesting, if you flip over to the S&P, you can see the S&P had basically the same resistance area here. This is the hourly chart, and you can see we essentially did the same thing, but this is coming down. I'm not in anything right now because, quite frankly, like I said, I prefer to trade NASDAQ over S&P, but this certainly is a pretty aggressive move to the downside. But so far, the NASDAQ hasn't followed suit, and they do usually move in tandem with each other for the most part. But it's interesting the NASDAQ is not selling off as aggressively as the S&P. And so, like I said, at least at this point, I haven't taken any trades. What I'd like to see is the NASDAQ to also sell off from here, and then perhaps I would take a short position. Again, if we zoom out a little bit, this is what I was talking about yesterday, this little chop area in here where price kind of just chopped around. We had this 1, 2, 3 stabs into this zone right here, and then we had this big sell-off back in September. And I was predicting that, or figuring, I don't predict anything, but that this would chop around and then break through here and continue up, to these highs. And it might still do that. I don't know. Because we're not having that aggressive break to the downside. We had this one big red candle here on the 2-hour chart, but again, that was all driven by the release of the CPI number. It looks like it does want to go down here. You can see it pushed back up right here and touched the bottom of this box again, and now it's just sitting here. So I'm waiting basically for some kind of break or reversal on the NASDAQ, and then maybe I would take a position. Like I said, it's pretty aggressive down move on the S&P right now. But again, I just generally prefer to trade NASDAQ, that's all. But this is certainly would have been a valid trade for sure. And just looking over at natural gas, just for a second, I didn't take any trades in here. We didn't really have a distinctive range. This was the range we had held for the last couple of days, and then during the overnight we kind of drifted lower, and it looks like it wants to go back higher, but it's kind of just chopping around. It's essentially back inside this range again if we extend this line over. This was the sell-off I took yesterday in the morning, and then the second half of the day it pushed back into the range again, and then during the overnight we drifted lower, broke out of the range for a very short time, then now we're right back into it again. So kind of a lot of indecision still going on in the natural gas futures. Again, I'm still relatively bullish on this, and I do think, just looking at the higher time frame, this certainly is pointing to go back up again. We have this major support area down here, zone down here, that we didn't breach on this sell-off, so and then we had this strong move up. So it looks like it wants to try to break higher again. But like I said, fundamentally, this should be moving up. So, but anyways, back to this. I'll be keeping an eye on this morning just to kind of see what NASDAQ does, and if S&P keeps moving down, or if we get some kind of floor here. And because we are only 20 minutes into the session, and this move down is clearly a reaction to the, a follow-through reaction to the CPI number, which again is positive for the dollar, but right now it doesn't seem that the indices of the stock market is taking that as a positive. So we're now back trading inside of this range we had for the last couple of days, and so we'll see what happens as we come further into here, if we get a reversal and it goes back up, or if we're going to trade down through this range. So I'll keep an eye on the S&P and the NASDAQ. And again, it's interesting, the NASDAQ's not pushing down, so that gives me a little bit of pause on what the S&P is doing, because again, if there's going to be an impulsive trending move on one, there's almost always one on both. So we'll see what happens. Keep an eye on it, and maybe I'll bring you an update later if anything really changes. All right, guys, have a good morning. We'll talk to you soon.